Good morning, Jess, and welcome to this week's episode on the Parenting Collective.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm super excited, as I always am, to have you as my guest. What you are, like we say, jack of all trades. There's lots of little things and big things that you do for families and parents and stuff like that. But there's one thing that I'd really like to focus on today. But what I always like to ask my guests is kind of, what's your elevator pitch? Meaning, if someone comes up to you and say, "What do I do for a living or a passion in life?" How would you explain to people what you do?
So I'm a midwife, and I guess the main passion that I have is helping families to prepare for pregnancy, birth, feeding, breastfeeding, and becoming parents. And in that space, hoping to reduce any fear that they may have about all of those upcoming changes in their lives.
Which we all do. We're all very super excited, aren't when people get pregnant, we get pregnant, but there is definitely fears involved. We're really good if you can find someone to lessen that, because it is a natural, incredible, it still blows me away. Like I work with so many families every year and I get so excited for them when they have new kids, like it's just, truly amazing. And it's amazing what our bodies can do. So in very short summary, you're a midwife, like you said, you're a lactation consultant, you do hypnobirthing. And breastfeeding, preparation and all that sort of stuff. But what I really wanted to talk about is your birth trauma therapy.
Yes.
Right. Now, I suppose my question for that is, how did you come about to sort of specialize in this? Is there a story? Then, usually when people are passionate about something specific like this, which, we hope a lot of people don't ever have to experience birth trauma, of course, but if they do find this podcast, and to be able to find someone like yourself, that if they have ended up having something that's not to plan, that there's someone like yourself there. But yeah, would you mind explaining, or is there a reason why you've sort of specialized in this birth trauma therapy space?
Yeah, I guess almost on a casual level, myself and a group of midwives and people who weren't midwives, we were all just a group of friends, and we used to almost sit around and say, "What's your trauma?"
Yeah, right. Great. What's the joy in life? What's your trauma? That'd be a medical field thing too, I think, wouldn't it? Like when you're in the medical field, that as you guys are, like you'd have to talk it through.
Yeah, exactly. And it was more about personal life things rather than a work aaspect.
Sure.
I felt that we were talking about it frequently.
Sure.
And it was almost sort of a joke that we'd have these conversations. But on a serious level, through my work as a midwife, I have observed birth trauma. I have seen women going through it, and I wanted to be able to help, basically. And I wanted to become the jack of all trades with the birth preparation, with breastfeeding preparation, all of that. And I thought, I can be in that room at the moment with women when they're having their babies, but what happens afterwards?
I know. What happens afterwards? They get sent home.
Exactly.
And the thing is, I went to a beautiful mum's house. Well, a bit of a quick story why I'm going to talk about it too, is I wasn't supposed to go to a home visit.
Mm-hmm.
I think the universe has aligned for me. She's basically begged for me to go. So I got dressed. Lucky she was 5 minutes from my house. And I'm so glad I went, because new mum, 4-month-old, having a really tough time with sleep and everything. But I see on her bedside table how to heal from birth trauma. I don't even think she would have told me or talked to me about that. And often I do ask, how was your birth? Because, mental health afterwards. But this is what happens, isn't it, Jess? Like these things happen, and then where do they go?
Yeah.
And they go home and they're breastfeeding, and they're not sleeping, and their partner's not doing what's needed, and their poor minds and bodies are healing from that. So yeah, that's amazing. You would have said.
Yeah. And even, as I work through a lactation consultant, I always ask, tell me about the birth. If you're having a cesarean section, was it emergency? Was it planned? Did you have an induction? What happened? And because our birth impacts our breastfeeding journey as well. So it's completely part of the puzzle when I'm helping somebody with breastfeeding issues.
And you can do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, jack of all trades. And that's the thing is when I go, for me, I'm a sleep and parenting, conscious parenting coach. And, you know, I'm definitely not lactation or anything like that, but I know little bits of small things. And like you said, it's not just about, for me, it's not just about sleep. It's
Yeah.
not just about mental health. It's like for you, again, you're a midwife. If someone finds you, my goodness, midwife, lactation, hypnobirthing, you're the whole lot. So yeah, so sorry, getting off track a bit. So yeah, so you saw a lot of things, and obviously it was discussed a lot. And so then,
Yes. Then I was like, well, I want to be able to help people. So how am I going to do this? So I found a course, and it's based over in the UK. And it was about an 18-month course. And now I'm a birth trauma resolution therapist.
Wow, amazing.
And the first one in Australia as well, which is really exciting.
I just saw that.
Yeah. The course is based in the UK. So many 3 a.m. Zoom calls for that class.
Oh, I bet you. And, you know, look, I work worldwide too, so it's amazing. Which is beautiful. You know, I always curse sort of social media and that kind of world for my teenage kids, but there's huge parts of us being able to help people. You know, I was helping someone in Italy at the moment. You know, like find me. You know, so do you have children yourself?
No, not yet.
Oh, not yet. Next there, great. One
next step.
And look, you know, I shouldn't ask that, should I? Because well, a few things why I ask is like, you know, of course, if you're a mother or not, but some people are choosing not to have children either, and that's absolutely their prerogative. So yeah, so that's fantastic. So can you run through? Okay, so how do I ask these questions? So I think if you're a first-time mother in particular, you try not to worry about that it's going to be a difficult birth. You know, have what birth plans and stuff like that. So what do you think of birth plans? Because you kind of have to have them to a degree, I would say. But again, talking to people, and it sounds like if you have too much of a birth plan, that can cause a lot of disappointment and stress if it doesn't work out. So what's your thoughts on going into the preparation of birth on a mother's choice and moving forward with that?
So, you know, some people say birth plans, some people say birth preferences.
Right, good idea.
Because plans don't always go according to plan.
Exactly. Preferences are good idea.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm for birth preferences because I think that shows that you have done your own research.
Yes.
And you've weighed up what you would ideally like to happen, but with the view knowing that birth is unpredictable and things can change. So I usually suggest, let's say if we're planning for normal vaginal birth, to also make birth preferences for a cesarean section, so that if things go off course, you also have some control over what's happening with the cesarean section. Let's say, you know, playing your own music and having your partner there, you know, doing skin to skin, all of those kind of things. So it doesn't feel like, okay, my ideal plan didn't happen and everything's taken away from me.
Yes, good idea. Preference is a very good word. It's amazing how with your mindset you change your wordings, because that's the thing is having 3 kiddos myself, and they kind of went reasonably to preference, but if I had my time again, I would have a much bigger voice of what I wanted to prefer.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're 19, 17 and 13, and so you just did what you were told.
Exactly.
What I'm loving and hearing is mothers have a voice.
Yeah.
No, I want to do that, or, you know, and that's great because it is our bodies.
Yeah.
I don't know where it got in the last, not previously, not now, but when I was having my kids, you just did what you were told.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And you don't know what you don't know.
No.
So it's only in hindsight that you can go, actually, maybe that wasn't what I would have enjoyed as well.
Totally. But that's okay. So with regards to, so also of, you know, hypnobirthing was very, 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 it was definitely around, but it wasn't really talked about. I think I had a book and there was a little bit about it, which I thought was amazing. But do you work quite a lot in the hypnobirthing space? When you, so if someone's going to work with you, run through, would they sort of do midwife, everything with you, or is it sort of like they find you as a midwife and then do, you know, explain to me how people can work with you kind of thing? Everyone needs you. Everyone needs the hypnobirthing. Go into it. They need the lactation. They need everything.
So it really depends on when they find me. on their journey. So some people might not find me until after they've had their baby and they want support with breastfeeding. But if they find me antenatally, they might book in for antenatal classes. So that could be the hypnobirthing, or it could be classes that I've created myself as well. And then perhaps if they need breastfeeding support afterwards, we continue on that client relationship.
Totally.
And then it might also be just that they have never heard of me, and then the birth trauma aspect comes up and they find me that way as well.
So I think the other thing too, when we talk of birth trauma, is women and mothers we're superhuman. Like, I think when you become a mother and when you go through that journey and you think back of what your body went through or whatever, and then what we just put up with, I don't know if that. It's just, majority of us feel like, we've got to keep this baby alive, and we sort of put ourselves on the back burner pretty quickly.
Yes.
Again, I don't know how to ask this. Birth trauma doesn't have to be that it's something, some people are going to feel birth trauma if their preference isn't, so when we use the word trauma, people think, oh gosh, I would have had to have like surgery and but birth trauma can be things like it just didn't work out the way I wanted to.
Yes, completely. So I would say trauma is subjective. So what I find traumatic, you might not find traumatic, and vice versa. And it could depend on the day that it happens to us as well.
Yes.
So you might find an emergency cesarean traumatic, and perhaps somebody said boo to me, and I might find that traumatic. So it's really subjective. And I think you said it there that, it would have had to have been something huge for it to be traumatic to me. But some people might say, oh, the word trauma is too much. Mine wasn't that bad. Sophie down the road. Sophie down the road had a much worse experience. So I don't want to say that mine was traumatic. I'm fine.
That's what we do.
Yeah. Whereas, so I think it obviously takes some time for us to kind of realize perhaps we weren't so happy with what happened. And when that happens, it's kind of like a light bulb moment, I think, whether it was something minute or something really big. But I think it's really great if we kind of take the ownership of, actually, no, I wasn't happy with that.
And not feeling like a weak person. This is the biggest thing when we become mothers that I found, again, working in this space, but also as a mother and my friends. And I don't know if the right word is martyr, because it's not really, but we do exactly that when it becomes to a mother. Like, it's not that bad, we can handle it. And, talking about, so for my first experience was an elective Caesar because she was frank breech, which is her feet were up near her ears. I couldn't push her out. But the recovery was so traumatic. I had other friends that had elective Caesars and could have driven a car that week, but I was in extreme pain for 6 weeks, and my obstetrician he wasn't bothered, and I think back of that, and I couldn't walk stairs and, all of that. And, I wish I had someone to talk to about that, because my profession who I was talking about was basically downplaying it. And the thing is, we still have to be mothers. We still have to breastfeed. We still have to try, we might have other children. So it's a lot. So I think as I'm, obviously getting to know you and watching what you do and stuff, it's obviously very linked then to mental health. So this is the thing, is like, when I talk to my mums all the time, is you either have already sort of suffered from some kind of mild anxiety or like worries, and you've sort of been able to control that before you have children. But then when you become a mother, it's
amplified.
So I say to my mums when they, like, I'm so sorry, that I'm being difficult. I'm like, you're not. Your baby, your husband's not helping, all of these things. So why I want to have these open conversations is that mothers feel very lonely, even if they've got people to help, but don't feel shame or weakness if you're struggling in your mind, because it's not. It's really so common for us to struggle once we have our babies. And, I think, again, making it super clear, birth trauma doesn't have to be trauma to the level that someone else got. It might be this mental health trauma.
Yes. And the other thing is, it doesn't have to be during the birth. It can be during pregnancy, during birth, postpartum. It could be, multiple miscarriages, IVF,
Yeah.
loss, and even just perhaps you haven't given birth at all yet, you're pregnant with your first baby and you have a massive fear around giving birth. Like, this treatment can help with a huge variety of things. So it doesn't have to be
birth trauma.
Exactly.
You need lots of titles in there.
Yeah.
Birth, breastfeeding, marriage trauma, like everything. And obviously it's very intensive that you studied for that 18 months. And also, having that lived experience as a midwife, like you said, being there, being beside women, watching them have to leave hospital, and you think, oh, what can I do for them,
Yeah.
And breastfeeding, this is why I say to mums, breastfeeding's tough. It hurts. You need a great lactation consultant to be able to guide you for that, for bubs to be able to do it. So yeah, with the mental health, obviously, of mums and dads, dads often are struggling. And again, men are getting much more in touch with themselves. I'm seeing in the last 5 years, which is wonderful. But sort of my generation of men, which is your 50s, they're that, traditional, hardcore, suck it up,
Yeah.
Not great either, because then they use
No.
or whatever. So do you mostly work with mothers, or do you work with couples, or can you work, like in that sort of space of becoming new parents? Like, can you help with that or not really?
Yeah. So this treatment can be used for people who've experienced the traumatic event themselves, but also people who have observed it. So midwives, obstetricians, doulas, the caregivers that have observed it, but also the partners.
Yeah.
So,
because that's what they've observed their partner or wife go through something that's stressful. It doesn't just disappear, does it?
Yeah. And so it's not so much on a couple level that I would do it together. It's more on a separate level.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because me experiencing the trauma is going to be different to you, the partner.
Totally.
Experiencing it. You've had different experiences.
Yeah.
So.
Totally. But you could support a dad who saw his wife or partner go through something awful, and you'd be able to help him process something like that. Yeah, because that's pretty big. Right. So that's, absolutely fantastic. Now, how would people be able to work with you in this space? Like, obviously you work with people worldwide as well.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So online, in person, they can come to me, I can go to them.
And what does it look like? Is it like a counselling session? How does that sort of work for them?
Yeah, so I would say it's usually a minimum of 3 sessions, because we kind of go through some steps, but it could be maybe 5, depending on the level of trauma. The
little big medium.
Yes, exactly. And the first session is, getting to know them, because you have to build up that trust with that person. Are they going to be willing to open up to me? It's the first time meeting me. Usually create like a guided, personalized relaxation track for them. So they can bring it home and they can listen to it every day. And really just trying to lower that arousal for them so that they can kind of get into a deeply relaxed state. And also talking about the event that has happened. And then the next session is usually doing one of the techniques which we can use, which is called the rewind technique.
Which is, can you sort of summarize it?
Yes. So sounds a bit kooky, but
no, not at all. I love kooky, love it.
Basically, we are imagining that we're in a very safe space, usually on the beach, somewhere where that person feels particularly safe. Sitting on a very comfy chair, looking at a TV screen in front of them, and the traumatic story is playing on the TV. We're looking at the TV and we're watching the story going forwards and backwards, and then we speed it up and we speed it up. And the idea is that you then see less detail. All the little bits that we have kind of attached onto become less vivid, less intense, and we do this multiple times. And the idea is that we want to remove the negative emotional component from the story. So
like the and also the emotional post-traumatic stress, amygdala sort of feeling when you think about it.
Exactly. So it's really, the whole treatment is about removing the negative emotional component. It's not that we want to erase that.
No, it'll never go.
The birth of your baby, it can be this magical thing, and we don't want to take that away, but we want to make sure that you're not getting triggered by things every single day in relation to that story. So really lowering your arousal, getting rid of the negative emotions so that only the positive emotions are left.
Yeah, it's amazing. So that sounds a lot like hypnotherapy, which is what I've done a lot of. I've done a lot of different modalities over my life to get rid of stress and deal with stress. And with hypnotherapy, that's what they do. They make you visualize the trauma, whatever that might be, and it's quite horrific. Well, not, I didn't say horrific, take that back. You know, you feel the emotion at that time, but then someone like yourself guides you through to, so then a little bit desensitizes. So it doesn't, like, it's not those feelings that I'm thinking about are popping into my head right now, but they don't give me the cold sweats and the heart thing anymore, if that's the best way to explain it to people listening. So it's like, it might sound awful that you might have to relive it, but what it does is, sort of desensitizes in a good way, so that it's there, but it doesn't give you that body effect when you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. And we do it at a really slow pace. So if I observe that the person's becoming uncomfortable or emotional during it, we take it really slow, and we just really go back to that safe place that we started off with. And then there's other techniques we can use, and we can really pinpoint specific emotions, that come up. Usually in birth trauma is like anger, guilt, sadness, regret, all those big emotions, and we can really break them down into like the specific things that you feel guilty about in relation to that story. And we can use a similar technique to break those down as well. And people have come to me and they said, I'm never having any more babies. And by the end of it, they're saying, oh, maybe I would think about this again.
It's amazing. And I mean, it's hard to even explain how amazing it is, but again, I've used it in different ways, but it sounds very similar. And when you talk to people about it, if it's something that's traumatic, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, sit on it, and I'm fine. What I tend to find now that I'm getting older, and those friends, bless them, that haven't dealt with whatever that trauma was, it doesn't go away.
No.
So it's much better to be able to find someone like yourself to process it in a safe space. I mean, we can't say safe enough. So even though we're talking about you might have to sort of relive that situation, it wouldn't be traumatic. It's like you would be holding them in a very safe space to get them through that time, to be able to reevaluate in their brain, so that they don't think about it in that way, like you said, anymore.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, as people are getting older, they still haven't dealt with this. I can see somebody who's had their baby 6 weeks ago, or they could be an 80-year-old woman who didn't deal with their trauma, and it's still a valid treatment to do in that time, because we just push things down, and it still affects us every day, even if, no matter how hard we try and stamp it down.
Oh, I've done that. And so for me, I've had such a lived experience that I would just get sick. And so with all, like I was saying, all the different modalities I've done to try and keep healing and growing, I'm a bit kooky. People might think I'm strange, but I'm now a 50-year-old woman who has processed all my traumas, have not gone. My life's still chaotic, but I'm such a much calmer person than when I hadn't processed it, because I kept pushing them away. Best way to explain it, and I think about a good friend's mum that I spoke to a month or so ago, and she would be probably 85, 89. And we were talking about how she'd lost a twin to this friend of mine. And she was crying like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
The pain, it doesn't mean that you, when you process these traumas, that the memories go. It's just that it's not that sort of memory anymore. It's like it's interesting. We could talk about all things like this all the time, but
I know.
I do love that it's not just about birth itself. Like you said, it's like any sort of thing that's causing mental stress. You would be able to help them with that. Right. So how do people work with you? How do they find you? What have you got to give them? Do you offer, could they DM you? Do you have any sort of chats that they could speak to you to see if you fit with them? Run through with me how people can find you.
Yes, so I'm on Instagram, jess.themidwife, so people can reach out that way. And also my website, jessthemidwife.com. Very happy to receive an email or a message, anything like that, and we'll see when we can match up an appointment.
out. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And look, I'll put everything in the show notes and links for everyone to find you. But, you know, I think also, even though that we've just focused on that, you know, any sort of step in someone having a baby
Yes.
would be great to speak to, that's for sure. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really interesting to, you know, be able to find you. I don't even know where I found you. I get so excited when I find people. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to share you with the world. So keep doing your amazing things for families. I think it's so important, and for them to be able to enjoy being parents, even if it's been some kind of stress, that you would be able to help them sort of process and enjoy being parents.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed being on, and yeah, if anybody's feeling a little bit of distress or not so comfortable with what's happened, please reach out.
Totally. Even, again, we could talk about so many things, but I'll leave it there. But thank you so much for today. Have a lovely week, and we'll speak to you soon.
You too. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.